Bad news, Timberwolves fans. Karl Anthony Towns reportedly out at least a month after meniscus surgery. So obviously I'm not going to go into the whole like, oh, he tore his meniscus, how long does that take and everything. I'm not a doctor. I can't speak on any of that stuff. But they're saying he's going to be reevaluated in about a month or so, which for those of you that don't know, we don't really have that much time left in the NBA season. The play-in tournament takes place on April 16th to 19th. So obviously that's a little over a month away, but the 1 month is an evaluation time, right? They want to see kind of how he's taken to the surgery and everything. And then there's the idea of, getting him back on the court, getting him back in shape, right? So I would guess that he's not ready before the start of the playoffs, but, we can hope. There's medical miracles all the time. Karl Anthony Towns is an athletic, strong dude. Let's just hope that he gets back quick. But what does this mean for Minnesota right now? Minnesota is currently the number one team in the West. It's great for basketball, right? To see them and the Thunder at the top. This is a young team that's built pretty much internally. Do we want to call it pretty much internally? Guys like Naz Reid, Edwards, Cat, McDaniels, dudes like that, right, are their dudes. Obviously, Gobert and Conley are dudes that they've brought in to kind of help supplement this team and turn it into the defensive juggernaut that it is. But the concern now with Karl Anthony Towns is not necessarily the defense, because while Cat is playing better defense this year, he's still not a very good defender. It's more so the fact that, who's going to score? Just taking a look at the point breakdown here, this is a very similar spread that we see with like the Dallas Mavericks, right? Where it's two guys at the top, obviously not scoring as much as like Dallas does, right? But two guys are the primary scorers. That's Ant, that's Karl Anthony Towns. Ant is phenomenal. We all know how great Ant is. I don't need to go into detail about how great he is. Phenomenal basketball player. Karl Anthony Towns, an exceptional offensive basketball player, especially from three this season. 5 threes a game, shooting 42.3%, 22 points a game, 8 rebounds. It's awesome, right? It's awesome. But after that, we have a significant drop-off. You go to Rudy Gobert, right? Very good basketball player, but not a shot creator. He's an opportunistic scorer, right? When it's convenient, he goes and gets his buckets. Naz Reid, one of the better backup bigs in the NBA, probably the best backup big. Maybe you throw like Hartenstein in there or something, but obviously not as offensively gifted as like Naz Reid is. I would imagine they don't start Naz Reid. I imagine they slide Kyle Anderson into things, who, as we all know, it does not have the most offensive confidence in the world right now. It's a completely different look. And honestly, I'm curious how that lineup looks. Just looking at those two alone, Kyle Anderson and Gobert are a positive together. You can look at some of the lineups here. He's not playing with Gobert here. He's playing with Gobert here and also Naz, which is one of the better lineups that Minnesota has. So at least that's good. At least like when we throw Kyle Anderson out there with guys like Gobert and Reed, which, on paper doesn't seem like a great lineup, but I guess if you got guys like Ant going and getting all the buckets anyway, it doesn't really matter. But, how long can he sustain this, right? We all know that Cat is the supplementary scorer on this team. We're looking down the rest of the line, right? Jaden McDaniels is the guy that we logically think of that needs to step up. Because Ant just can't sustain this, right? Like, he's going to have to be on some Kobe shit, right? Like, he's going to have to go get you 30 to 35 points every night, it feels like, to be able to compete offensively. Obviously, this team will be really good defensively, and that just helps you win basketball games. But somebody else just has to step up, and somebody will. Somebody will take on some of the scoring burden. Like maybe Mike Conley takes a few more shots a game. Maybe he digs a little bit deeper in the tank, finds something. But Jaden McDaniels is that logical one. Obviously, he's taken a little bit of a step back this year. We kind of figured after he got the big contract and he had a very nice season last year, the three-point shot was starting to look better, that maybe he was going to take a leap this year, but that didn't really happen. And part of that is because Ant and Towns and Gobert have been working so well together. Naz, they've thrown into the mix and everything a little bit more. But, we look to Jaden now, who's a great defensive player. Again, they've got plenty of good defensive players, but we're looking to him now to see if he can be a creator of some sort. Because McDaniels can shoot, right? Like, he's a decent enough shooter. What is he shooting this year? 36%. Yeah. Solid, very solid, right? But we need guys that can actually go create buckets, right? And that's what we're missing on this team. Another point that I'm thinking of is if you guys were watching some of my trade deadline videos, I kept saying we have to find a way to get like a Jordan Clarkson or a Kobe White on the Chicago Bulls. Like, one, they needed a point guard, and they ended up finding that in Monte Morris, who hasn't done a ton of scoring for them yet this year, but he's also still kind of getting back into game shape a little bit, so maybe something happens. He's never been a prolific scorer. He's more of a facilitator, but still, you never know. But I wanted to get like a Jordan Clarkson or a Kobe White on this team because I was looking at it and I'm like, okay, man, like there's not a ton of scoring on this team or creating in itself. And like, you know, where can we get some more of that? We need a guy coming off the bench to do it. To bring it back to that Dallas Mavericks comparison, right? You've got Kyrie, you got Luka. Tim Hardaway Jr. is going to get his shots up every game, right? Like whether he's starting, coming off the bench, he's going to come in, he's going to get his shots up, he's going to get you 18, 19 points, right? Good at getting his own shot up. Love a guy like that. There's not that guy on this team. An interesting note, though, they did pick up TJ Warren recently, right? And TJ Warren played in his first game last night, got 7 points for him, played solid basketball, all said and done. TJ Warren, historically, is a very gifted offensive basketball player. I'm sure we all remember Bubble TJ and the fun that was, but ever since the injury that kind of took him off that track, like it's been hard for him to stay on the court. It's been hard for him to get going. So you'd like to think with maybe just like 20 games left in the season, maybe are we under 20 games? I don't even know, but maybe he gets into some game shape and, you know, he at least has like habits of going to get buckets. So maybe TJ can find it. I mean, look, he scored 19, 20 points per game in the NBA before, right? So we know it's in there. It's just, you know, does his body still support him in doing that? And he doesn't have to be a starter and do it either. Like if he's just a guy coming off the bench that can go get you 12, 13 points and create his own shot, which again, hard to do when you're coming off of a lot of injuries, but that'd be a big boost to this team. But yeah, in the time being, it's going to be Jaden McDaniels. It's going to be Nickeil Alexander-Walker. Like those are the guys that you're kind of looking to see like, hey, young dudes, is there any way you guys can start creating a little bit more? We're going to put the ball in your hands and hope that something good happens, because as of right now, that Western standing is very close. Obviously, the Timberwolves still in first place. Denver, OKC right there. Clippers are never out of this, right? And with this many games left in the season, anything could happen at any point. I'd find it pretty hard to believe that Minnesota holds on to this spot, especially because like Denver's coming into their own right now. Like, you can tell they've turned a corner and they're kicking it into high gear to get ready for the playoffs now. Clippers are playing good basketball. OKC's figuring out their new roster a little bit with some of the additions that they've made, but I'd imagine they're going to keep rolling too. Come playoff time, though, the West is anybody's, man. So having a Karl Anthony Towns trying to get back into shape right now when you just don't have a lot of other scoring going on in the playoffs, you need that scoring. You need guys that are just able to create shots. And the Timberwolves just don't have that. They unfortunately don't. Who else they can pick up? I don't exactly know the answer to that either. I think they're just going to have to work with what they got. But for now, you Timberwolves fans, and you know I live in Minneapolis, so I want the Timberwolves to do well. I like seeing people excited. It's good for the league to have Minnesota be good for once. So y'all let me know, man. Y'all let me know what you think of this. I'm feeling pretty pessimistic overall that this is going to be a good string of things, but you know what? Anthony Edwards is a dog, man, and he might just figure it out. Maybe he'll just jump over the entire rim next time, every time they need a blocked shot, and he'll jump over the rim to dunk every basketball, and that's how they'll win basketball games, because you know what? If anyone could do it, it's Ant-Man, right? So we'll be rooting for the Timberwolves. I hope they figure it out. I hope Jaden McDaniels gets cooking a little bit. I presume Kyle Anderson will start so they can keep bringing Nas off the bench, but hey, man, it's going to be a lot of defensive basketball and carrying offensively. So y'all let me know what you think, and we'll talk to y'all later.